The dry wind rolled across the open plains like a wandering spirit searching for a home, brushing the tall yellow grass and rattling the loose boards of Hollow Ridge's lonely buildings as the sun struggled to rise behind a curtain of dust. On that strange, fateful morning, Elijah Crow, one of the last honest ranchers in a land being eaten alive by greed, rode his tired bay stallion up the crooked road toward the old trading post. Elijah was a quiet man, the sort whose presence felt like a heavy stone in calm water, but beneath that silence lived a lifetime of scars carved by loss, drought, and the ruthless men who had taken everything from him. He had not come to town seeking trouble, he had come only for supplies. Yet destiny has a habit of ambushing honest men when they least expect it. As he dismounted outside Harper's trading post, a commotion inside made him pause. Voices, angry ones, rose over the sound of crates being dropped and boots scraping across wooden floors. "Auction starts now," an unfamiliar man barked. Elijah's brow tightened. Hollow Ridge was a forgotten town, half abandoned by families driven out by the gangs that prowled the edges of the territory. What sort of auction could be happening here? He stepped inside. The scent of old whiskey and gun oil hit him first, then the sight, 7 rough men, dust-coated and mean-eyed, standing around a wooden crate where a frightened young woman sat with her wrists tied loosely in front of her. Her long black hair, braided with faded beads, fell across her shoulders, and a bruise darkened one cheek. She looked out of place, too proud, too sharpened by hard life to be part of whatever these men were planning. Elijah's jaw tightened. He knew what this was. Raiders had been snatching young Apache and Navajo women from nearby territories, selling them to gangs or worse. The law had abandoned this part of the frontier long ago. "She ain't yours," Elijah said quietly, his voice low, solid, immovable. The men turned, laughing like coyotes circling a lone calf. "You can have her," the leader sneered, "if you pay." Elijah didn't hesitate. He reached for the money he'd saved for winter feed, a sum he could not afford to lose, but his conscience wouldn't let him walk away. He tossed the pouch on the table. The leader's grin widened. "Fine. She's yours." He cut the rope around the woman's wrists and shoved her toward Elijah. She stumbled, caught herself, then looked up at him with a pair of eyes so sharp and fiercely intelligent they could cut glass. She wasn't weak, she was surviving. He knew that look well. The men moved toward the door, snickering like they had just played the world's easiest trick. Elijah ignored them. He turned to the woman. "You're free now," he said. But instead of relief, she stepped toward him, placed a hand firmly on his chest, and whispered words he never expected. "You paid for me, now do it." Elijah froze, unsure what she meant. Her gaze didn't flinch. "Do what?" he asked, voice barely above a breath. She lifted her chin, eyes blazing with a mixture of desperation and authority. "Take me away from here. Protect me. My tribe believes I was taken because our enemies wanted to force a war. If I go back alone, they'll think I escaped by betraying them. They won't listen to truth. But if I return beside a man who risked something for me, they'll believe I was defended, not disgraced." Elijah stared at her for a long moment as the realization settled like a weight in his chest. She wasn't asking for ownership, she was asking for honor. And her people, proud and tightly bound by tradition, valued the symbolism of protection and alliance. Not forced union, but partnership. The words she spoke next changed the direction of his entire life. "If you walk with me into my village, they will believe we are one. Husband and wife." The wind seemed to stop whispering. Elijah let the truth of her request sink deep. Becoming her husband, even symbolically, could make him a target, not just from her tribe, but from the men who had taken her, men who wouldn't be pleased to lose their leverage. But he saw something in her eyes, strength, courage, and a trust she hadn't meant to give but had no choice except to offer. "What's your name?" he asked. "Sahale," she replied, steady as a drumbeat. Elijah nodded. "All right, Sahale. I'll take you home." She inhaled shakily, then gave the faintest nod. Together, they stepped outside into the cool morning light. But the raiders hadn't gone far. 5 of them stood by the hitching rails, waiting. Their leader spat at the ground. "We changed our minds. We're taking her back." Elijah stepped in front of Sahale, his hand lowering to his holster. "You sold her," Elijah said. "Deal's done." The leader grinned a venomous grin. You think we care about deals? He raised his rifle. Elijah drew faster. One shot cracked like thunder across the plains. The leader fell. The others reached for their guns, but Sahale grabbed Elijah's arm, pulled hard, and they dove behind a water trough as bullets shattered planks behind them. Elijah returned fire. 2 more raiders fell. The last 3 mounted their horses and fled, shouting threats into the wind. Elijah exhaled long and hard, then turned to Sahale. She hadn't flinched, not once. "You're brave," he said. "No," she answered. "I am desperate. But I will not be afraid while I stand beside you." And so began the long journey toward her tribe's hidden valley, a trek across cracked desert floors, beneath burning skies, along shadowed canyons where danger lurked behind every rock. During the nights, they camped beneath blankets of stars so endless it felt like the heavens were watching, judging, deciding whether to bless or curse their union of circumstance. Sahale told him stories of her people, their dances around sacred fires, their belief that some souls were braided together by destiny long before they met in the flesh. Elijah spoke rarely, but she listened intently when he did. He told her of his ranch, of the storms that had taken his crops, of the brother he lost to outlaws, and the loneliness that crept into his bones after too many years spent talking only to horses and the wind. "You carry storms inside you," she said one evening as the fire crackled between them. "But even storms can bring rain." Elijah didn't know how to answer that. But her words lingered. Days later, they finally reached the edge of her tribe's lands. Warriors appeared on the ridge, bows drawn, eyes hardened. Sahale stepped forward and raised her hands. "I return under the protection of this man," she called out in her native tongue. "He risked life and blood for my freedom. I claim him as husband until the spirits say otherwise." Elijah's breath caught. Though this arrangement had been a necessity, saying it aloud before her people made it real in a way he hadn't expected. The warriors lowered their weapons. Sahale's father, a tall, commanding chief named Talako, stepped through the ranks. His gaze swept over Elijah like a hawk judging whether its prey was worthy of respect. Then he spoke to his daughter, and she answered firmly. Talako turned to Elijah. "You saved my child," he said in halting English. "For that, you have my respect. And if she names you husband, then you are welcome here as such." Elijah glanced at Sahale. She stood tall, proud, her chin lifted with calm certainty. In that moment, Elijah realized something had shifted. Their bond had grown roots, shallow perhaps, but real. As the tribe welcomed them, Elijah felt warmth he hadn't known in years. At the end of the night, as the firelight painted gold across their faces, Sahale leaned close and whispered, "I said you were my husband to protect my honor. But now," she hesitated, breath trembling. "Now I hope it is not a lie." Elijah's heart thudded like hooves on dry earth. "It isn't," he said. And that night, beneath the vast Wild West skies, a rancher who had walked alone for far too long, and a warrior woman who had been stolen from her people, found something neither expected, not just safety, not just alliance, but the first spark of a union the frontier itself would remember. A union born not of ownership, but of courage, sacrifice, and 2 hearts choosing to stand together even when the entire world tried to tear them apart. And so the tale began, the tale of how Elijah Crow, the silent rancher, and Sahale, the fierce Apache warrior, became partners not only in survival, but in destiny. And if you want more powerful Wild West tales like this one, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because the next story might just become your favorite legend.